everyone. The topic we are going to discuss today is based on content provided by the Buddhist Path Association of Australia. We are going to take a deep dive into a fascinating Buddhist classic called the Sutra on transforming the body. Just hearing the name might make it seem a bit peculiar, right? It puts forward a concept that, to be honest, might be really confusing or even leave you unsure how to react at first glance. However, hidden behind it is a profound path leading step by step from affliction to liberation and enlightenment. Alright, let's unveil its mystery together. Actually, when we read ancient classics, we often encounter this situation. Some viewpoints in the books can seem a bit harsh or hard to accept when viewed through our modern lens. The sutra we are discussing today is a classic example of this. The core ideas within it truly challenge many of our deep-rooted conceptions. Okay, the passage you are seeing now is arguably the most controversial and confusing part of the entire sutra. It states very directly that women should feel a revulsion toward their own bodies and hope to transform into men. Wow, hearing that probably makes a lot of question marks pop up immediately, doesn't it? Is this demeaning to women? Or is there a deeper meaning behind it that we haven't grasped yet? This is the core question we are going to unravel this time. So how do we solve this puzzle? We need a key dot. This key actually comes from the commentaries and teachings of the great patriarchs and masters of later generations. Their wisdom is like a light, illuminating the rich symbolic language behind the scripture, allowing us to see past the literal meaning to the message it truly intends to convey. Here lies the key to solving the entire riddle. According to the master's teachings, this sutra is not discussing biological gender at all from start to finish. The female body here is actually a metaphor. It symbolizes a mind that is tightly bound by afflictions and emotions. Conversely, the male body is also a metaphor. It represents a mind that is awakened, liberated, and full of power. So you see, viewed this way, the teaching becomes universal, right? It applies to everyone, regardless of gender. Okay, now that we understand this core metaphor, what practical method of practice does the sutra actually teach us? Its method is actually very direct and powerful. It asks us to summon the courage to fearlessly observe our own body, to observe and analyze it continuously until we see its true nature clearly. To help us break our attachment to the body, the sutra uses 3 incredibly vivid metaphors. Let's look at them one by one to see how they help us dismantle this illusion we've always believed to be true, the illusion we call me. First, the first metaphor is a puppet. Think about it. Isn't that ingenious? It offers us a perspective. We don't actually have 100% control over this body. Every movement, every thought is like a puppet, pulled from behind by various causes and conditions. They are all just temporary events. So the question arises, who is the person pulling the strings in the back? The next metaphor is arguably the most shocking one in the entire sutra. It directly compares our body to a toilet or cesspool. While this comparison sounds very graphic, its purpose is very clear: to use the most powerful method possible to shatter our long-held habit of viewing the body as something purely clean and lovely. Through such observation, our craving and attachment to the body will naturally begin to fade. Buddhism also teaches us to analyze using a more subtle method. It says that this body is not a single, solid entity. It is merely a temporary combination of the 4 fundamental elements of the universe: earth, water, fire, and wind. That is to say, skin, flesh, and bones belong to earth. Blood and bodily fluids belong to water. Body temperature belongs to fire. And breathing belongs to wind. When we dismantle and observe it in this way, the feeling of a solid me begins to loosen. Having said all this, it might sound like some very cold clinical observations, right? But where is all of this ultimately taking us? The ultimate goal of this practice is actually quite magnificent: to liberate us thoroughly from the solid cage of the self. The core philosophical issue this practice aims to resolve is what Buddhism calls attachment to self. What is attachment to self? It is a deep-rooted erroneous belief in our hearts that this temporary combination of a body is an eternal, unchanging, independent me. According to Buddhist teachings, it is precisely this wrong attachment that is the root of all trouble and suffering. So here is the key point you must remember. The purpose of this entire practice is absolutely not to make us hate or resent our bodies, nor is it to harm them. The point is to break our false sense of identity with the body, to break the illusion that this body is me. When we can truly observe that the body is not me, we can experience a broader, freer state known as the emptiness of self. So what happens when a person gains such a profound realization? How does their mindset shift? Let's look at the end of the story in the sutra to see how this personal insight transforms into a very universal grand aspirations. The sutra mentions that among the audience listening to the Buddha, there are 75 laywomen practicing the path. After hearing this teaching, a profound awakening occurred within them. After their enlightenment, these laywomen immediately made a very powerful vow. Pay attention to what they said. Their goal was no longer simply to liberate themselves from their own suffering. Instead, it sublimated into a hope to help all sentient beings attain the same thorough liberation they did. You see, this is a massive shift from being for oneself to being for all beings. So, in the end, what message is this sutra trying to convey? It is that inward self-reflection will inevitably turn into outward, universal compassion. A person's enlightenment will ultimately lead to the great desire to serve all beings. I believe this is the ultimate meaning of the metaphor, transforming the female body into the male body. Alright, that's about all for our sharing today. Before we finish, I want to leave you with this final question to think about slowly. If this body, which we have always been so attached to and cared so much about, is ultimately just a temporary phenomenon formed by various conditions, like a dream, then beneath all this arising and ceasing, what is the existence that is truly eternal, unchanging, and real?